Thanks for talking to us today. What happened the other night?
So, Jay, 2:30 in the morning. Luckily, I stay up very late, about 5:30 every morning, and I got a notification from my camera at the front door. I thought it was a bug. You get a bug on a camera, something like that. Maybe the dogs had to go out and somebody let the dogs out. But no, it was a guy with a long gun, a rifle, looking in the window. He had a hat on. I couldn't tell if it was a police officer or not because the night vision happens when it's dark out. During the day, it's nice. It's a nice color camera, but I couldn't tell what was going on. And immediately, the adrenaline goes nuts, and I called 911, and I got the county sheriff, and I said, "Listen, this is who I am. This is where I am. Do you have deputies at my house right now?" And in about 2 seconds, she said, "Yes." We got a call because shots were fired, dogs were killed, family was hiding, for safety, and we sent out a bunch of deputies. Well, I said, "Well, that's not happening. Probably being swatted. That's not what's going on. This is who I am, public figure, television, radio, talk show host. They're doing this to people because of political reasons. Please tell them to stand down. I'll come out with my hands up, and we can diffuse this right away." So I walked out of my production studio, and there are big windows behind the studio once you open the door, and I see all sorts of flashlights in the backyard. And so there are 3 or 4 deputies in my backyard as well. So we had 3 or 4 in the front, 3 or 4 in the back, and everybody was on high alert. I mean, the guy, you see the video, I'm sure you'll show it. He looks like he's ready to go. I mean, he's got the gun in a position where he can use it. And thank God I called them first and I didn't just walk out to see what was going on. Thank God I didn't grab my gun and walk out and see what was going on as well. It was a very scary situation in the middle of the night.
So, do you think this is being coordinated against other people as well?
Yes. Yeah, it appears as though at least 9 that we can count, conservatives who have a bit of a high profile have been swatted. And again, they're calling it swatting because literally somebody from some faraway area on a VoIP line that they can't really trace is calling in, pretending they're at these addresses and saying that there's distress or peril. And I believe it is coordinated. Well, if you think about it this way, they're either just trying to shut us up and make us stop talking about what we're talking about, or they literally want us to die in the front door. Because had I walked out and done something differently, the officer, the deputy would have had every right to say, okay, this is some sort of a confrontation. Thank God it didn't get to that. But yes, I do believe it's coordinated. It seems so. I mean, the FBI director, Kash Patel, has now put out a tweet on this saying, we're well aware that high profile, conservatives are being targeted, and we're doing all we can investigatively to find out who's doing it.
What is it about your show or what you're talking about that is making you a target?
I think what's happening is with the new administration and I'm talking about what I like that the Trump administration is doing, and instead of having a discussion of some sort and having a debate, if you will, it's easier to try to shut somebody like me up. And I think that's what it's all about. There also are some allegations that, Jay, I frankly can't back up, that it could be because people who are critical of Zelensky's handling of that meeting at the White House a couple of weeks ago, those people might be also being looked at by these bad guys who are doing the targeting. So if you're somebody who speaks out of line and not with the narrative on Ukraine or about politics or conservative versus liberal, then it appears as though you can be a target.
And so that takes it, of course, out of the sphere of just the possibility of domestic opponents, so to
Yeah.
speak. Do you believe that this is related to the attack on Twitter recently and the attack on some of the dealerships, things like that?
Well, it's bad speculation, but it's worth mentioning. I'm glad you brought that up because Elon Musk came out and said that DDoE attack that took down Twitter or X the other day. He says the IP addresses were from Ukraine. Of course, there was the dust up in the White House with the Ukrainian leader just a couple of weeks ago, and there was a list that was put out. And I don't know who put it out specifically. It might have been the Ukrainian government 2 or 3 years ago, and the list showed a bunch of Americans that were so-called enemies of Ukraine. I'm told I'm on that list. So again, we could put 2 and 2 together and usually get 4, but I don't have concrete evidence saying Ukraine did all of this stuff. I do know this. It was a VoIP phone number. I talked to the sheriff, and you can't trace those. Very, very hard. It's either a Google phone number or VoIP, and they could be anywhere doing this.
So needless to say, everyone is fine at your place, and you've had a talk now with law enforcement to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Well, yeah. So we put a mechanism in place that if somebody calls in an emergency to my house, you've got my number. If I don't answer, come. If I do answer, we can defuse it before you even get out here. That's just, listen, look at it this way. It's a scary situation for the police as much as it is for me. They don't want to go and get into a shootout at 2:30 in the morning in rural, Comal County, Texas. They want to, make sure they keep people safe and that they're available for those who have real emergencies. So the bad guy is putting them in the same sort of danger that they're putting me in. So any advice I would have for those who are watching this, if you have a situation where you see somebody on your camera that's got a gun and looks like they could be there to threaten you or your family, immediately call 911. Don't even think twice. Don't grab a gun. Don't run out. Don't confront them. Immediately call 911 and ask a simple question. This is my address. This is who I am. Are you at my house? And if they say no, then it's a different situation. Thankfully, they said yes to me. We were able to defuse it very quickly.
Before I let you go, I do want to get a little bit more information, if you will, about it was a great move to call 911, but I mean, how did you know when it was safe to go outside and talk to the officers out there?
Well, if you can picture it this way, Jay, I had the phone to my ear talking to the dispatcher, and I had my hand up, and I said, have him put the barrel of the gun down, and I'll walk out. Tell him it's me. Tell him there's no peril. Tell him nobody's in danger. And literally at 2:35 a.m., I walked out my front door, and I didn't realize it because from the camera shot that you've seen, it's just the one deputy. Well, he had three more behind him that had flashlights and their guns ready to go too. So I made sure she told me they understand. Good, you're good to walk out. And I just showed I'm not armed. My hands are up. I'm talking to dispatch right now. And the interesting part of this whole thing is then one of the deputies said, the original caller is still on the line with dispatch. I said, well, trace it. Find out who that is. But it's a great question. I was not going to walk out the door until the dispatcher said they are well aware that you're ready to come out and that you're going to talk this through and everything's good. And I would not have walked out otherwise because, again, at 2:30 a.m. in the dark, they don't know what sort of danger I might be bringing to them. Very scary situation.
And this was technically Wednesday morning or Tuesday morning?
Wednesday morning, 2:35 a.m., yeah.
All right. Well, glad you're okay. And sorry you had to go through that situation, but it's an interesting trend, and I'm glad that it's getting some attention by law enforcement.
Well, it is. When the FBI director puts out a notification, hopefully the bad guys realize that the gig is up. I hope that's what's going on, but I understand 2 or 3 more high-profile people were swatted just last night. Jay, I appreciate you talking to me about it.
All right. Take care, Joe.
Okay. You too.